Missouri 2022, and I have been involved in this issue for quite a long time. I've been working on it professionally since 2011, and I've been doing it at least as an activist since my days as a student at WashU back in 2001. And so, all that experience makes me very happy to stand here today and say that it is finally time for Missouri to legalize and regulate the adult use of marijuana. We saw in 2018 the massive support for medical marijuana coalition, which I was also involved with, and that passed in 2018. We believe that we have the support now to pass the adult use of marijuana here in Missouri. We filed our petition back in August with the Secretary of State's office. That was approved for signature collection back in October, and now we have about 50 signing locations across the state where people can go and sign the petition, and we will be talking about how they can find that information here in a little bit. The current status quo around marijuana feeds an illicit market and also distracts law enforcement from the more serious property and violent crimes. So it is time for Missouri to join 19 other states, including our neighbor Illinois, just less than a mile away from where we stand right now, and legalize the adult use of marijuana. We supported medical marijuana 3 years ago with 66% of the vote, and we believe that there is strong support for adult use now, as seen by 160,000 registered medical marijuana patients in the state and $160 million in legal medical marijuana sales. And criminal justice reform is a centerpiece of our campaign, and that's why we include an automatic expungement option that will vacate the records of tens of thousands of Missourians who currently have records for non-violent marijuana offenses. We also create new business licenses for small business owners, and those are targeted towards people from high poverty communities, service-disabled veterans, and those who have been convicted of now expungible marijuana offenses, including some other categories. And next up to address the expungement category more deeply, we have Mallory Rusch, who is the Executive Director of Empower Missouri. Thank you.
Well, I'm going to dress as packets
today. If you were to go to breakfast, I'll take it out.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. My name is Mallory Rusch, and I am the Executive Director at Empower Missouri. Empower Missouri is the state's oldest anti-poverty advocacy organization, and we convene the only statewide criminal justice coalition, which is made up of over 50 organizations from across the state. The coalition's goal is ending the practice of mass incarceration. Missouri has the 7th highest incarceration rate in the country. In January 2017, the Missouri Highway Patrol reported nearly 100,000 marijuana-related arrest charges in the state's criminal justice database. Those behind bars in that category were sentenced to an average of 7 years in prison. In 2018 alone, almost 21,000 marijuana-related arrests were made across the state. And most of those arrests were for the possession of very small amounts of marijuana. Under the Legal Missouri 2022 proposal, as John noted, tens of thousands of Missourians will have their criminal records automatically expunged of low-level marijuana expenses, giving them a chance at a fresh start. I think it's really important to highlight the word automatically. Most of these individuals are actually already eligible to have their records expunged under Missouri law, but our current process is cumbersome, time-consuming, and expensive, which means that less than 1% of people with a record are actually able to get it expunged. The Legal Missouri proposal creates an automatic expungement process, which would not require Missourians to petition the court for such a change, making this clean slate available to everyone with an old marijuana charge on their record. One small caveat, the automatic expungement provision does not apply to a small number of violent offenses or those whose offenses involved distribution to a minor or operating a motor vehicle while under the influence of marijuana. Still, Among the 37 states that have legalized medical marijuana and 19 that have authorized adult use, just 7 have such a process, which really puts Missouri ahead of the curve in this space. Criminal records continue to punish individuals for decades after they've paid their debt to society, impacting their ability to achieve gainful employment, achieve promotions at work, secure housing, and more. It was a clear and easy choice for us to support Legal Missouri's proposal. With marijuana already being legal for millions of Americans, it is completely nonsensical to continue to penalize and punish individuals for current or past use. We are strongly in support of the Legal Missouri campaign, and we look forward to seeing the passage of this law next year. Thank you.
I'm just doing a transition here. Do you need me to be mic'd up with that? Okay. So I'd like to now introduce Adolphus Pruitt, John Bowman, and James LeNoir of the St. Louis City, St. Louis County, and St. Charles County NAACP chapters, respectively.
It is it's a good day. It's really a good day. Let me start at least by saying that you are looking at the face of the NAACP in the St. Louis region, collectively, St. Louis City, St. Louis County, and St. Charles County. And that should mean something, especially as it relates to this particular initiative. I can't say that on behalf of St. Louis City branch, this is an important initiative for us. The fact that this initiative will address or be what we would consider one of the largest single criminal justice reform efforts in the state's history. It is important also to recognize the fact that Mallory talked about the issue of automatic expungement. It is only fair that folk who have been subject to low-level marijuana possession offenses, that those records be automatically expunged if this act becomes legal. The thing about it that is more, for me, that is more important, that has been more pronounced, is I was just recently looking at the numbers, and the numbers are telling. The ACLU issued a report in 2020 that basically says that blacks were 2.6 times more likely than whites to be arrested for marijuana possession. Even worse, in Johnson, Lafayette, and Lincoln County, blacks were 10 times more likely to be arrested for low-level marijuana possession charges. And from 2010 to 2018, the fact that 50% of all of the drug arrests in this state came from low-level marijuana possession charges tells it all that it is time that we legalize marijuana across the state, and at the same time make sure that those folks who are impacted more than others have the opportunity to have their records expunged automatically, and at the same time be able to take advantage of some of the stuff that my colleague from St. Louis County is going to share with you. So let me introduce John Bowman, President of St. Louis County NAACP. And he looks better than I. But I'm taller. You see, he can go to work. And I've been president longer than any of them, but he put me to work.
Thank you. Thank you all very much for having us here today, and to echo with my esteemed colleague from St. Louis City, President Pruitt, and it's always a pleasure to see President LeNoir here from St. Charles County. The 6% retail sales tax would generate estimated annual new sales tax revenues of $140.8 million, and additional local government revenues of at least $13.8 billion. The money, in turn, would be put aside for veterans, health care, drug addiction, treatment, and the state's severely underfunded public prison system, public defender system, which is desperately in need of a shot in the arm for funds. The state recorded more than $160 million in medical chemical sales from late October 2020, where the sales first began, through October of this year. That bodes well in the additional tax revenue and tax expected to generate under this new law. I'm also very excited about the new category of cannabis licenses that will be renewed for small businesses and will, over time, add a minimum of 144 licensed facilities to be existing in over 378 licensed and certified cannabis businesses in the state. So, as John noted earlier, these are new small businesses, and the licenses will help bring more equity and representation into our state's cannabis industry. That includes those previously convicted of nonviolent marijuana offenses, as well as Missourians with limited capital, residents in high poverty communities, and services for disabled veterans. Yes, just talking out loud, a new business license in each of these states' 8 congressional districts, at least at the facilities per district, must operate the dispensaries in the 8 congressional districts. The remainder will be wholesale facilities. That is a new category, which involve operation and both cultivate the part of the manufacturing cannabis products. The new license would be random by lottery. That's how it is. There are retail business locations will be constitutionally required to be evenly distributed all over the state. The result, economic growth in big cities, bedroom communities, and local areas alike. So similarly, opening the national cannabis industry and more women, veterans, people of color, residents in underserved communities and neighborhoods, and those with expunged convictions is a significant step in the right direction. But yes, this is a true step in the right direction. We're providing equity and equitable opportunities in underserved communities, especially people of color. So this is a cutting-edge effort to bring Missouri forward. And we strongly in St. Louis County support this effort, as well as my friends and colleagues in St. Louis City and St. Charles County. President LeNoir.
Yes, as John said, St. Charles County, my name is Jim LeNoir. I'm honored to be here today, and I have to concur.
Might be easier to go to the inside copy behind it.
Yes, I concur with John. and Adolphus. I think it is a good day for people that's in some way ill, that need this, I call it medicine, because for myself, water is medicine, because I have some issues. I'm an ex-sponsor, and Payne Muhammad Ali got some kidney disease. So, to help get this kicked off, and hope that it will be a success, to advertise. I'm honored to be a part of this. My first time being at this meeting. So again, I have to concur with these guys, and I'm learning something from you. So I appreciate everyone patient. I expect to be more spoken with and knowledgeable with other information as time progresses. And I thank you all very much.
Now I'd like to introduce Cecil with Greater St. Louis NORML, who is going to try the fight for reforming marijuana laws in the state of Missouri. He is an activist for many years.
Thanks, John. I am Cecil King with the Greater St. Louis NORML chapter. NORML is the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws. Now, we have chapters all across the state. We have 6 different chapters. Greater St. Louis is located here in the St. Louis area. All of the NORML chapters are supporting this initiative, and we are endorsing it too. Now, NORML as an organization has been around for a long time, since the 1970s. We really have been putting up a good fight for this. So this is really a great day for Missouri and NORML, because we've really been active in this for a very long time. Now, NORML doesn't really advocate for the use of cannabis. That's really a personal choice. We just feel that if you decide to make that decision, that you shouldn't be arrested, prosecuted, or incarcerated. It's just a substance that doesn't warrant those kind of penalties. Our mission is to change the cannabis laws to ensure that you have the personal freedom to make that choice about marijuana. Now, in this age of COVID-19, many people do not want the government telling them what they can or cannot do in regards to their own body and their own personal health. Yet the government for over 50 years has told us that marijuana has no medical value, it is a dangerous and highly addictive drug, and it's been put on the most restrictive schedule on the federal government. Now, we've learned over the years that the most dangerous thing about marijuana is getting caught with it, because then you can end up with a criminal record, and that can follow you through job interviews, getting a loan, going to school. All kinds of problems are associated with just being caught with marijuana. Now, NORML has a long history of fighting for marijuana reform. In 2018, Missouri NORML chapters were instrumental in coordinating volunteers and supporters all across Missouri. We collected 135,000 signatures just by volunteers alone. This had the effect of jump-starting the medical marijuana initiative campaign, and we eventually ended up collecting 372,483 signatures. That's well over half, or twice the amount of signatures needed to get onto the ballot. Now, Greater St. Louis NORML has also worked on the local level too. In St. Louis, we were early supporters of Board Bill 180 way back in 2017 that really reduced and eliminated all possession charges for marijuana in the city of St. Louis. Unfortunately, it didn't pass. A year later, Board Bill 193 did, and it reduced possession limits down to a $25 fine, no jail time. Our sister chapter over in NORML KC, with question 5 in that same year in 2018, also passed an ordinance with initiative to reduce the fine down to $25. They eventually, 1 year later, just got rid of the fine altogether and said, we don't want to send a lot of cases into court and jam up our court system. It's just not worth spending the amount of resources that it takes to process and incarcerate all these individuals. Now, just last week, Board Bill 132 was passed by the Board of Aldermen in the city of St. Louis. Now, that bill looks very similar to the Board Bill 180 and also has the same effect of reducing and eliminating all of these possession penalties for marijuana. Now, we really applaud the local officials and elected officials for going along this route and trying to, listen to the public and saying, look, we don't want to be spending all of our resources on prosecuting these petty possession cases. But it does pose a very interesting problem, and that is the fact that if you were to jump in your car and go from downtown St. Louis along I-70 all the way to Kansas City, you're going to run into 5 or 6 different jurisdictions that each one of them has a very different take on what possession charges would apply to you if you were carrying cannabis. So in Kansas City, they're not even look at any petty possession charges. But in other jurisdictions, you may end up with a $25 fine, which is a very low fine. Anybody could pay that, but you'll end up with a permanent criminal record because of that. We think that is just not the way to do it. So this initiative will standardize all across Missouri the possession charges, which would be eliminated in essence. So we are legalizing it and decriminalizing cannabis, and it's very important that this happen in the state of Missouri. I think Missouri citizens are ready for that. Now, it is a real challenge to pass any law in Missouri by citizen initiative. It's very expensive, it's very time consuming, and it takes a lot of people to do it. And you can only do it with a strong coalition. NORML is part of that coalition. You've already talked to other people in that coalition. There are people all over the state that want to get this done and eliminate these charges for marijuana possession. But there is one element that we really need, and that is citizen participation. This is one of the petitions here that we need to have signed. We need 25,000 signatures in District 1, which is St. Louis City, and Congressional District 2, which is out in the county. We need around 33,000 signatures, and also in Congressional District 3, we need about 31,000. That's a lot of signatures, and we're going to actually double those amounts and put twice that amount in there. But we really need citizen participation. If you see anybody out walking around with one of these petitions, go ahead and sign them. We need to get on the ballot and let the Missouri citizens determine whether they want to have adult use or not. So, NORML does a lot of events, and we do a lot of educational things, and we coordinate a lot of activities with volunteers. So you can go to greaterstlnormal.org, and you can see our upcoming events. We invite everybody to our events, and you can ask questions and find out more. You can volunteer. We'll show you how to fill out one of these petitions and put you on the payroll, so to speak. Although there is no money for doing that, but you'll have at least a good experience collecting signatures. Also, Legal Missouri 22 has a great website and shows you all the signing locations across the entire state. So you can go there and go to your local dispensary, walk in there, and you can sign a petition. And there are other businesses, retail outlets that also have those petitions. So I encourage everybody to do that. Help us out. We're looking to get on the ballot next year, about a year from now. So thank you very much. Cecil?
Did I get most of that in there? So I'm back very briefly, just to kind of cover the logistics, which Cecil just touched upon. So our job now is to go out and gather over 170,000 valid signatures from 6 of Missouri's 8 congressional districts. And really that means we're going to have to collect more than 300,000 signatures, because a number of those signatures will be invalidated for one reason or another. We currently have close to 50 signing locations across the state, and you can go to legalmode22.com to find a map of our signing locations. And you can also follow us on our social media, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and we encourage people to go to all of those, find a place where you can sign the petition, go to someplace where you can sign the petition, follow us on our social media and email list, and volunteer for the campaign and contribute. So that's it for the presentation, and I'm now open for any questions.
Hi, Tracy Henson from Channel 5. Why has this not happened already, and who is opposing this?
So there is no formal opposition as of this moment. We'll obviously be monitoring that. Traditionally, there's been some opposition from law enforcement groups. That's not uncommon, particularly people that are in drug enforcement. Those are usually one of the most common sources of opposition. And honestly, I think the reason that it hasn't happened yet is just political inertia. It's very difficult to get something passed, even if it has broad support from the public. It is a massive undertaking. Like I said, 300,000 signatures is what we're going to have together. That's going to require thousands of hours, hundreds of thousands of hours of labor and millions of dollars to complete. And so just in order to do that, you have to have a very well organized and well-funded group to put that together. So I think that's the main reason.
There are some policymakers, elected officials, who'd rather see this passed through the legislature. Do you have any expectations that maybe the legislature may spur the act this year to kind of head this petition off and pass and be able to craft the system themselves, or is that just wishful thinking?
I think that's pretty much wishful thinking. I know there are certainly legislators who support that and will work towards it. But from what I've seen in the leadership of both the House and the Senate currently, that is unlikely to happen. I believe there was a House Joint Resolution that was introduced on that last year, and it never was even referred to committee. I don't think there's any reason to think that that's going to change in this session.
And when I was looking through the proposal, there's things in there about existing medical marijuana, like distributors. Let me back up. There is language in there about if you currently hold a medical marijuana license, you could transform it into a medical and adult use. Can you explain that, and how do you make sure that the people that have those licenses don't get an advantage over somebody who doesn't have it?
Sure. So this is something that pretty much every state that has passed adult use legalization has done. The licenses that are currently there are allowed to apply to turn their licenses into ones that can also sell into the adult use market. And really that's to allow for hastening of the market opening up and ending the illicit market as quickly as possible. And so, they will be some of the first people that are able to sell adult use cannabis, but we also add on, at least 144 new licenses that are going to be competing with those.
And are the 144 just through all points of the process, so like cultivation, manufacturing, distribution, or is it only a specific point of that that's going to be the new license?
So 144 of the 144, 2/3 of those are allowed to both cultivate and manufacture, and then 1/3 of those are dispensaries.
John, you guys have had ballot initiatives, competing ballot initiatives now, at least in the last cycle. I wanted to address, Fair Access Missouri, which has their own initiative out. What are some of the differences, and how would you address kind of the issue that they bring up, which is this kind of reckoning with the way that the medical marijuana system has worked, and kind of accusations essentially that it's been mismanaged, and that their initiative can improve it to some degree. So if you could maybe address a couple of those issues that are going to be relevant as this campaign goes out.
Sure, and actually, I think the fair access proposal and our proposal are about 80% identical. They're actually, I'm pretty sure they used a draft of our language to draft theirs. There are some differences, as you mentioned, primarily around the licensing, and they want basically an Oklahoma approach to this. And what we've seen in Oklahoma is, there's like, 10,000 business licenses for medical marijuana currently, and a lot of those are now being shut down by the state government because they're not in compliance, they're not tracking seed to sale, they're not testing, and a lot of them are deeply involved in organized crime, nationwide, internationally, in fact. And so, I think that is the wrong approach for Missouri to take, and that would be the key, policy difference there. Moreover, I also don't expect that they're going to be able to make it on the ballot. It's possible, but like I said, it's 300,000 signatures, millions of dollars to make it on the ballot by their own reckoning. That's how much it costs. And then with regards to the NORML medical marijuana program, I'm not going to stand here and say everything has gone absolutely perfectly, but what the state of Missouri was projecting in terms of the number of medical marijuana patients that we would have by this point, I believe was something like 25,000. There's 160,000. And that, I think, tells you, the numbers speak for themselves, that this is a successful program, that people are interested in becoming a patient, and they're getting medicine from dispensaries or home cultivation. They also have that option. I think the proof is in the pudding there, so to speak.
Well, it's maybe you or the members of the NAACP could address this, but in terms of minority ownership or participation in this industry, my understanding is that it's not been a large amount of dispensary owners. What could change, and what have you seen, I guess, so far in minority ownership in the cannabis industry, and what could increase that participation and access, into an adult use system?
Yeah, that's a good question. Honestly, it's actually hard to know exactly what the rate of minority participation in it is currently, because the state doesn't track that information. I do personally know that there are some minority-owned licenses in the state, but I couldn't put an exact figure on that. But that is, I do think minorities are currently underrepresented. I don't think there's an argument to be had there. But that is one of the reasons why we target the new licenses towards communities that have been disproportionately impacted by the prohibition on marijuana. And so that's one of the aims of the new licenses, is to correct that, allow more minority participation. Yeah.
On the expungement, you define what it means.
So it includes all misdemeanors, all E and D felonies, and I believe all C felonies up to 3 pounds of marijuana. And those are eligible for automatic expungement immediately upon passage of the amendment, regardless of whether they are currently serving a sentence or whether their sentence has been completed. Now, all the other felonies are still also eligible for automatic expungement, but after the sentence has been completed.
Is there any sort of timeline for this? What would the timeline be?
Yeah, so we have to turn our signatures in 6 months prior to the election. So that would be May 8th of this coming year, 2022. Then the signatures go to the Secretary of State's office. They send them out to all the counties for verification. And then in August, usually July or August, they notify you that you have or haven't gotten the correct number of signatures, and then it's submitted to the ballot for November. So that's basically the timeline.
And then from November, if it was passed or denied, how soon would it then be?
Sure, so it's a 30 days after the election is the effective date, and then there is a timeline in the amendment for certain benchmarks, but the possession and use of marijuana would become legal for adults 21 years of age and older 30 days after the election. Other questions? All right, well, thank you very much. I think one thing that, where did Alan go? Was Alan, because I think he had a. Okay.
Yeah. The opportunity, at least touch on where folks can sign petitions.
Okay, yeah, I think, so I did mention that we have 50 signing locations across the state. They can find those on our website, legalmo22.com. And also in the very near future, we'll be hiring a paid signature collection service to go out and gather a lot of those signatures. But we intend to have probably over 100 signing locations in the near future. So follow our website and newsletter to find out more about that.